quickly moving on, ladies and gentlemen, to our next session. Digital loan collection, the next big thing in NBFC, and for that we have a plethora of industry experts here. So please help me welcome them with a big round of applause. Joining us first, Mr. Suraj Shetty, Head of Customer Experience and Learning and Development from Ring. A big round of applause to Surajji. Welcome to the panel, sir. Please have your seat. Joining next in the panel, we have Mr. Piyush R. Mistry, Head of Information Technology and ex-Capital India. A big round of applause to Piyushji. Piyushji, welcome to the panel. Please have your seat. Joining next, Mr. Himanshu Bhattacharjee, Business Head, Home Loans and Head of Debt Management, Geo Financial Services. Big round of applause to Himanshuji. Welcome to the panel, sir. Please have your seat. Joining next, Mr. Maninder Singh Uppal, Senior Vice President, Collections and Legal from Axio. A big round of applause to Maninderji. Welcome to the panel, sir. Please have your seat. Joining next, we have Mr. Suraj Dutta, Senior Vice President, National Collections Head, Shriram Finance. A big round of applause to Mr. Datta. Welcome to the panel, sir. Please have your seat. Joining next, Mr. Sadaf Sayeed, CEO from Muthoot Microfin. A big round of applause to Mr. Sayeed. Welcome to the panel, sir. Please have your seat. And now we would like to call on the honorable moderator for this panel, Mr. Vishal Chugh, Executive Vice President, Head of Debt Servicing Management Group, Tata Capital. A big round of applause to Vishalji. Welcome to the panel, sir. So Vishalji, all over to you. Looking forward to a great session.
So good afternoon, everyone. What a august audience we have, and what an experienced panel we have today. Here, because all of us are not from BFSI, we are representing different modes of debt collection. But before I go there, it was such an experience. I was just listening to the previous slides. So as a collection guy, we always wonder. The way we were doing that loan, you send a WhatsApp and the customer gets a loan. So we collection guys always feel. How many of you are from debt servicing here or are involved in collections? Okay, I think there is a sizable number of people. So I think I'm echoing your sentiments here, that we also wish that if you could just send a small WhatsApp to someone and the customer just makes the payment and we just relax, right? So that's what the expectation is. So coming from those days of collections where we always say in our days, the moment we started doing collections used to be an art. We always used to say collection is an art. So we said fine, we are an artist, so we'll do and join and do collections. So finally we realized it's not art. There is a mix of art and science, because by the time the AI and the data science and the business intelligence units they got developed. So we poor artists also, we thought we now will have to learn this science. So we got into the mode of learning that science. So the way we progressed further, then we realized, oh, this is not only art and science. Now there is maths also here. Because everything is pertaining to the provisionings, the losses, the ROEs and the ROAs which we were discussing. So we poor art background people, we thought, okay, now we'll have to learn this kind of a thing as well. So we moved from art, science and maths. Now the way the RBI and the other authorities are focusing and monitoring this entire activity, because the entire industry has become so big. Now we have started learning the moral science also, that you cannot touch a customer after a particular time. These are the number of messages you can send. You cannot represent an instrument after before 72 hours. You have to inform them. So the customer awareness has also gone up. And now, so that's what I was giving you the background, because it's such a pleasure and honor for me that coming from that kind of an art collection background to today, where I'm hosting the stalwarts of our collection industry, where we are going to talk about AI and the hard stuff which we were discussing with the Himanshu and Piyush. They are like IT specialists, and the users like Sadaf and Maninder, we were discussing that how we are going to really use it. So for me, it's a personal pleasure to obviously learn and implement, because as an organization, I'm representing Tata Capital here. We are into we offer the entire basket of products from corporate to retail, rural, everything we do. So it's going to be a good experience to be with all of you. So thank you so much. Before we start, I thought I'll just give you the background set. Expectations are set now, that now we are the air traffic controllers, and we always say that we are the collection field guys, right? So we always say we drive the plane, but the air traffic controllers are, the AI and the entire models what we are, working with. So great. So we'll start with that. So I also just wanted to say one more thing. Today we talk about, when we go into the field and ask, what is the expectation? Where will you end the month? What will be our collections, right? So in earlier days, we used to say, kaise hoga ye number? So people used to tell us, sir, Ganga ji ki kasam kha ke bolte hain. The collectors used to take Ganga Jal in their hands and they say, no, sir, ye number hum karke denge. Today, when we say, so we go back to our strategy teams, the data science team, that this is what the trend is all about. Please let me know where I'm going to end it, at the month end. See, that's the journey of last 3 decades, I could say. We have evolved as a debt collection department or as an function, as said. So, gone are like from collections to recoveries, receivables, as we said. Now we are saying we are into the debt servicing role. So that's the progress what we have made in this function as such. So let's start it. So I'll just ask the very first question here from Himanshu and Piyush. I'll just. So, as we discussed about the collections piece, so, that's like we come into the later part of it. There are a lot of risk involved into this innovative, the industry where we're currently working with. So there's a lot of risk. So can we, what are the innovative solutions you really think for a smarter risk management, and which could really help us into the debt recovery later on? Because that's the end objective.
Thanks, Vishal. Can all of you hear me? Perfect. Okay. So I could understand what Vishal was saying, because the way he was trying to join the dots between the time which has elapsed, because being in this industry for about 25 years, it actually reminded me of the old days, Vishal, the way you said Ganga Jal, you said that we have to do the numbers on the field, and the dimension has completely changed. So a lot of techies sitting in the room, so I can understand that data is God, and that's how we are going to do everything. Our business models are running on data, prediction models, how the customer is going to behave if we put up a product on a banner, how does he behave if we product on which Google site, what is the uptake rate, and then similarly in collections, where can I track him down, where can I trace him down, and how can I do this in the gamut of RBI allowing me to do some bit of scraping, to do some bit of hunting for the customer to figure out where he is, right? So building this framework in your head, imagine if I could do this right from the top, right? I was just seeing the previous trust presentation, and first thing that came as a risk guy in my mind is, where did you do the DPDP validation? Where was the consent? You used a mobile number, where was the consent? Nothing to do with the presentation, it's just a thought that I had, right? Coming from the beginning, if you have the right consent from the customer, if you're capturing the data from the right source, if you were doing the OCR question, that there was a question about how do we validate the documents, if the OCR is happening and if we are figuring out that the data that the customer is giving is correct, then trust me, there is a low possibility of the customer to go delinquent. You choose the right set of customers, you choose the right leverage on the customers, you choose as per the customer's need, don't try to sell him more, and the customer will not default. This is my strong belief, because I've seen both sides of the business or both sides of the world, right? I've seen this. How does this happen? How does this machine work in all organizations, right? So risk is categorized into many folds. I was telling Vishal also this some time back. If you do the correct underwriting, if you do the correct ops risk process, if you do the correct process of market risk liquidity analysis, if you do the correct way of anti-fraud assessments. So in that simple example that we were seeing, if the OCR was correct, anti-fraud is taken out, genuinity of the customer is figured out, financials provided 20,000, that gives him a loan of say X amount at an X EMI with an X IRR. Nowadays we can't use IRR, we have to use APR. So APR, the correct APR, trust me, the customer is not going to go bad. The moment you miss one step, one leg, you miss ops risk, you miss anti-fraud risk, you miss credit risk, or you over leverage. The case is ripe for collections. And then the collections guys will be running around chasing that customer round and round. First part of the journey where we are trying to figure out the customer, if that is done properly, the chances of this case going into a collection debt is very, very less. In case now the customer becomes defaulted, then what can I do? Because it is very difficult once the customer has already taken a loan for you under the DLG guidelines. Most of us are on digital lending apps, most of us are on digital lending platforms. You cannot go ahead and just pick up random data from the customer and start calling, because everything has to be KYC validated, everything has to be as per consent from the customer and validated. This becomes the toughest part for the modern day collections guys like Vishal was talking about. If I have some data, where do I park it? How do I make it happen? A simple example I'll give, like a phone number change. There's a phone number that I got from the customer. How can I put it up on my system? I want to call him out. The latest regulations don't even allow you to call that customer on the number that the customer is sharing unless you have a valid proof that it's the customer's number, right? Because you cannot call any random customer and tomorrow have an escalation, then TRI will stop your lines, right? You will not be able to call out to any other customer after that. And these are live examples that I've faced, right? TRI comes back very heavily, then the teleservices provider in between like a Tata or anyone will come back and start asking questions, where do you get this number from? So all these things have to be captured on the top, take more time for disbursals. I know everybody is running behind. In my last example only, I could see 2-minute loans, 2-minute noodles. It's excellent to have all that. It's excellent to have a fast journey. I'm from business myself. I would love to have a fast journey. There are targets that I give to my team. How many clicks does he get a loan, right? But at the same point of time, nowadays you don't really need to ask a lot of information. There's a fetch of an information that happens right before you're signing the agreement with the customer. So fetch it correct. If you fetch it correct, then it gets stored with you correct, right? If it gets stored with you correct with the consent, you can use that data at any point of time. So I think that's how the entire risk framework builds in. And if your collection agencies are correctly onboarded, chances of RBI penalties or chances of anyone coming and questioning your process, recorded lines, proper trails, is very difficult. You will survive.
Hello. Yeah. So yeah, Himanshu has covered the entire thing. Okay, is that how to nudge the customer. So it's not only that, but we should also keep a track on the customers is his behaving patterns. Okay, so this will also reduce that the customer may go in the debt collections. So we should keep a watch how the customer is behaving, what is his financial pattern is there. We should keep connected with the customers. It's not like one time, this customer has taken the loan, it's done. We should nudge the customer, we should keep a relation with the customers, we should see the his behavioral patterns also, that how his financial funds are flowing. Okay, so this will also help that, okay, this organization will come to know, okay, this customer has pattern has got changed, so this may go into debt collection also, this may become the NPA. So this we should communicate to the customers well in time. And yes, what Himanshu has said, we should proactively chase the customers that, okay, your EMI is due, you should pay the EMI on time. It should be in a polite way. Okay, this and the AIML plays the very good role nowadays, because you cannot reach customers at a time. So the AIML plays the good role here, who can proactively connect the customers. They interact in a machine language very proactively, and this will help a lot.
Okay, so just one more thing, in fact, before Maninder, to you only. So there is a financial data which is getting captured, like the way we just saw this. The way you just showed us. So the financial data, which is like from the repository, we get connected. Is there a possibility where we can get some non-financial data, which is also captured? Probably, I don't know how efficiently we can use it, or whether it's allowed or not, because that is where it ends up. While you go into the last leg of the consumer lending, which is collections.
Okay, so I heard Himanshu's view also, and here is what I think about what we are. I'll draw a similar parallel to what we basically understand from a layman perspective. What is risk management? The basic of a definition of what is risk management. I am starting my journey. It's a basic layman definition. I'm starting my journey to wanting to go to the gym, hit the gym. The ultimate byproduct that I want to do is to gain muscle or to lose weight, right? Eventually, the ultimate objective besides this that I want to avoid while I'm hitting the gym is to avoid an injury. The parallel in the banking world is avoid losses. The parallel in the banking world is to be able to generate muscles, which is the net interest margin incomes, right? Now, when I look at this as a journey, I understand that what is the innovation that has happened in the same parallel in a variable journey. Like today, when I hit a gym, I have a smartwatch which sort of tells me that what is the number of kilometers I've done, what is the number of steps I've done, what is the calorie count that I've burned. Is that an optimum data that I'm utilizing today? Is there a sufficient data which is available from a risk point of view that is something that we're utilizing fully today? The answer is that there are different pipes which is sort of holding a lot of data in a different variety of schemes. Are we connecting all those pipes together to really get a perspective of what we should be lending and to whom we should be lending? The answer is yes and no, right? And that is where some of the revolutionary sort of, we're very fortunate to be in a sort of environment where we have a regulator which is an innovator as well. So, right, so the ULI that we talk about today is sort of comprehending all of this together under one umbrella, and it will give a lot of visibility for everyone to have a perspective of all of these individual stacks and pipes available. Think of an account aggregator lying separately. Think of a GST data lying separately. So all of these pipes will get connected and we'll get a lot more visibility about how we currently read the data and comprehend the data. So if we can add what more data sources we can add to this, it's an endless debate we can add, but we will have to draw a very fine line that where we're encroaching the boundaries of our personal data. And all of this financial data is a data that perhaps is consent driven, like what Himanshu said. So to that extent, yes, we can utilize that data, but wherever there is no consent, I think it will be breach and encroachment of privacy and a policy. So I think as regulated entities, we should stay away from that sort of practices.
So we are actually living in the age of digital life. I mean, digital world. We just heard that 56 crores WhatsApp users, right? Which are anyway going to increase going on. But in the same parallels, if I talk about like Sayeed is here from the microfinance thing. So we are actually the main clientele is in the most rural part or the most interior part of our country, right? So my question to you and to Surath, because you are also a specialist in the tier 3, T4 cities, doing two-wheelers and the related products. How efficient you really feel that, or how good it is in today's world to do this digital collections? I mean, how are you able to translate it in your businesses? I mean, Maninder is able to do it, I am able to do it here, but how about microfinance customers or the tier 3, T4 customers you have? Over to you.
Thanks, Vishal, for asking that question. I represent here the microfinance fraternity, and I think that's a pertinent question in microfinance because traditionally, if you look at in microfinance, the collection has been 100% cash. So we operate in deep rural areas. We give loans to ladies living in a rural area in a Grameen model, forming a group of those ladies. These are unsecured loans and they are on a joint liability format. So essentially the collection is in a Grameen model, which is in the cash format. But as an organization, we have taken this initiative. I think credit of this goes to government for creating the platform. So there is Jandan, Aadhaar and mobile, which is a platform created, plus NPCI has created good payment infrastructure. So we have taken initiative to take digital collections to the last mile. The challenge that we see is not availability of the digital source. But I think the biggest challenge is behavioral change because the customer is very accustomed to dealing in cash. Her revenue is in cash and she wants to also pass on cash for collections. She doesn't want to kind of give it in a digital format. If she has to, then she has to convert her cash revenue into digital. So first, aspect is her revenue has to convert into digital, so which we are also supporting by putting QR code into her system. Whatever small business, a vegetable vendor or a kirana shop owner putting a QR code, so she gets some revenue in digital format. She can pay collection through digital format. Second is, I think any change in behavior is only achieved it is incentivized, if it's rewarded somehow. So there is a effective method of that. There is a cashback that we give a 10 rupee cashback to a customer who first time comes digital on board and does a transaction digitally. And that's how it is. And I think analytics plays an important role. So once we onboard a customer and she is able to pay digitally, we continue to follow up on that and see that every month she continues to pay digitally. She should not be paying 1 month digitally, next month in cash, and then falling off the radar. So that's very important. But I think as far as I think popular perception goes, that literacy plays a role, or ability to have a smartphone plays a role. I think those are misconceptions. The smartphone penetration is quite good in India. You don't have to look at per head how many it is, but at a household level, at least one smartphone would be there. And I think literacy, the rural population is quite smart. I can tell you, for example, we have taken this initiative. Almost 30% of our collection is now digital. And you ask me where is the highest penetration? The highest penetration comes from Bihar. UP is the second highest. Bihar is 44% digital collection. UP is around 37%. And our company comes from Kerala. You would assume that Kerala should be the highest, being the most literate state. The collection is good, but it's around 27%. It comes from the need, because like why M-Pesa or any such digital initiative was very successful in Africa or Kenya, because there was a need of transacting in digital format. Carrying cash was a risk. So that is, I think, the same situation which is playing out. The customer understands that if I have to do a cash deposit or cash withdrawal in Bihar, I have to travel a lot and I have to spend, because banks branches are distant. So they prefer digital. Plus the ecosystem is also that if one member of the family is working somewhere, he is also transferring money digitally. So they have that cash available. So that's why they are kind of doing digital transaction. Having said that, with lot of challenges, lot of effort, we have achieved 30% digital collection. We ideally would want to make it to a kind of a 80-90%, or maybe eventually 100% as well. But it's a long journey. It has to be. I think the challenges, again, as I said, I think awareness. Second challenge is basically their motivation to do this transaction, because they are used to doing in cash. Third is perception, because I think cyber fraud, the risk is very real, and people have seen their money getting swindled. So they transact with us because they know it's coming from Muthoot. So it's a kind of a trustable brand, they can do it. But generally, I think people are a little bit afraid of doing digital transaction. They don't know whether the money has gone to the right account or not. So I think those are some of the challenges. But increasingly, I think those things are getting more familiarized. People are getting used to it. We have developed an app also where around out of our 3.4 million customer, 1.6 million customer have that app. So if when they transact digitally, they can immediately check that money has been kind of credited into their loan account. So they get satisfied. I think those are the challenges which prevents digital collection to go from where it is today to a next level.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks, Vishal, for asking this question. So, while we cannot eradicate brick and mortar, and seeing that the digital shift that has happened, the paradigm shift over the last 4-5 years, see, the thing is, the main, if we talk about digital collections per se, with the digital acquisitions that we do, see, I think the start off is where we standardize the process of asking questions. Too much data also becomes a very big problem. Standardization of the questions, segregation of those questions, and basically the needs of the customers, segregating in what we are wanting them to provide, analyzing them. That's one of the biggest part. And post analyzation is giving an option to the customers so as to make them pay, whether it is digitally. So giving them the more and more options. I think the ease of business that is supposed to be done, whether be it in rural or urban. I think rural needs more because they want that personal connect. So it can be in digital form, it can be on WhatsApp or whatever it is. I think those are the basic things that needs to be jotted down and put across. And I think we can have a wonderful journey across from the time of onboarding to collections, and obviously marrying of whatever the data that we have from different sources to kind of connect back to the customer as per their customer's need. So I think that's something which is very important.
You want to add one point on what Sadaf was saying. The trust factor in collections is super critical because the way I saw this journey of MFI in one of my previous organizations is that the more you tend to go ahead and become digital and show your confidence in a digital transaction, customer would reciprocate. First, in the same industry, there was a digital disbursal. So before the digital disbursal came in, there was a cash disbursal which was happening. To get a digital disbursal and that getting the digital disbursal up, we need an account, right? So, and then the payment could start coming from an account. If you just disbursed in cash, the expectation also was cash. Then you move to a digital disbursal, then the expectation is digital money recovery. So the confidence that you show in the customer reciprocates back is what I just want to add to this point.
I mean, I want to talk about some challenges what we face now in digitalization of the debt collection, because we spoke about smartphones. Now, if the customer just switches off the smartphone, for a collection guy, the first thing what a collection guy would do is to first make a connect with the customer before he gets into his negotiation or the collection mode. So this is like one big challenge I personally feel. So what are other challenges you feel, Maninder, Suraj, which are like the challenges of digitalization of this entire debt collection? How do you really do it till the last level so that people like us can actually conceptualize and talk about this? But how is the last guy who's there on the field, who was basically our force down the line, is able to do? So what are the challenges you really feel?
So look, nobody can solve for if somebody decides to switch off the phone and become properly not available. Nobody can solve for that. But the ones which are available, there are enough and many means available today, thanks to what we saw with the trust, and a lot of other partners are sort of adding value to this. Is the digital landscape is sort of changing in a way that we sort of not only acquire and onboard a customer, but the way that we collect from the customer. Understand the volumes that we're dealing with. Okay, we see the loan penetration in the country is about 3.5, 4%. What is the opportunity? The opportunity and the scale that is available for the loans. And all the loans that we start, like from a micro lending perspective, is going to be starting at a smaller scale. Now, when we have so much of a loan penetration opportunity available, we definitely cannot deploy that sort of a manpower to be able to collect for these sort of people. So therefore, the answer has to come from the channels like omni channels, which are available, like bot, like chat, like IVR, and all of the channels that are available. The problem is that today the bot technologies or maybe the IVR technologies are like IVR becomes a very binary function of what comes in. You plug in a particular option, and that option stores with you. Similarly, for a bot, like it becomes today the bot that, as much as I understand, I'm not a tech expert, so therefore can't really say from a tech expert point of view. But so much as I've seen is that bot has a limitations in terms of what data has been sort of funded to the bot, and data basis the data bot sort of interacts with the customer. Now, the plateau here for a bot technology is that it has to get smarter with more of a data that we fed to the bot. Like imagine a situation that if you were getting a call as a customer and you say that while you missed your payment on the due date, which is 5th, but you want to make the payment today, will I get a waiver on the late payment charges? Today, we don't have the bots available which can take a decision, or maybe, of course, it can be built into it, right? We can take a decision. Or for that matter, like we saw that there are cards available, right? And there are loan stacks available which can tell you that, okay, this percentage of loan is available for this particular customer. Today, is that decisioning given, empowered to the bots to be able to do that so that it ultimately doesn't end up acquiring and utilizing a land space of a human, right? So these are things that need to come from an innovation standpoint. And there's a lot which is happening. I mean, I see a lot of things happening from a bot world. I see a lot of things happening in an IVR world. So I'm fairly confident that today what we're able to sort of collect maybe just to give you an industry number from a consumer lending landscape, is about 50-55% of the collections is something that we can even handle without even any sort of intervention of any human. So that's a fairly good number and a confidence that the technology has brought on the table. And at the same time, understand preferences of the customers has also changed, right? The people who prefer to have an onboarding journey like what we saw just a slide earlier, the same customers are wanting a similar behavior when they want to make a payment. And sometimes there is a difference between where we draw the line of an assertiveness. Like bots cannot get assertive, right? Humans can, right? Bots cannot understand that what's coming is really the fact or void, right? It's something that for human to really figure out that whether he's interacting in that sense, it is something that is avoidable, it's something that he can accept as an argument. And these are things that bot will learn over the period. I think we're supplying more and more data. The pipes are getting connected, even from an internal data point of view. As this gets mature, I'm confident that the number today is that, from a consumer lending space, if it is 50-55, this would even require even lesser population of people in the collections world to be able to collect. And just add up a number, today, I mean, just an industry average, for every million of a customer that we add, we would require about 1,000 collection folks to really handle that. It's just from a distribution funnel. The moment you add 1 million customer, you should account for 1,000 people that will be required to collect, both in telecalling field, strategy all put together. That's the sort of a landscape we have to cover in terms of a loan penetration in India. Imagine the kind of an opportunity that will open up for the collection folks. Unfortunately, all of this will not come to all of us. Most of this will be acquired by this bot companies and IVR companies, because the customer's preference in terms of engaging is also changing their perspective. They are also wanting to convert into digital. They are also preferring having conversation. I know all of us would have tried something not really stupid, but then something like having a conversation with AI, chat, GPT or something that, okay, what's the emotion looking like? So these are things, these are real technologies. This would really have a impact in a way that we currently collect. But would it change in a real time? I mean, I can only say that the metaphor for technology used earlier is that technology is changing pace. What is relevant today will not be relevant tomorrow. The way that we're seeing the technology change is what is relevant in the morning will not be relevant in the evening, right? So that's the pace at which technology is changing, and the capex also, right? So today, if BFSI space has to look at a capex of investing in a technology, maybe every 5 years, pace at which we're changing the technology is coming over, the capex expenditure will have to be sort of provisioned much earlier. So these are much real problems that we all will have to account for as we move forward in this journey.
Yeah, to add to what Maninder said, truly digitization in collections has helped a lot in terms of ensuring that half of the collections bit is handled digitally and no more manual effort is required, because you realize that when you have multiple channels through which you can reach out customers, the manual effort that is required for calling them or visiting them is reduced. But the main challenge that remains still is, and that we keep strategizing on this challenge, is that what is the right channel to approach the customer? Because right now what companies do is they prefer spamming the customers rather than choosing the right channel. So you have SMS, you have WhatsApp, you have IVR, you have voice bot, and the preferred use of these channels is that you use all the channels on all the customers almost, and you it's like a spray and pray approach wherein you see what works the best. And even though it's costly, you would still prefer doing it, because getting the collection numbers is more important. The cost of collection is less important, because getting the collections number right and getting the collections faster is more important when you have a large base to cater to. So the first challenge is choosing the right channel, and I think a lot of AI development has happened in on the communication channel, but not on the selection of communication channel. So you have a voice bot, you have a AI powered chat bot for collections, but even we have tried a voice bot in the past, and we have tried it with a couple of players. We have seen that customers are not very interested in communicating with a voice bot for collections. For customer service, it will work because the need is of the customer. He will use the chatbot. But when it comes to collections, you are in need of the customer paying to you. The customer is not interested. So he will immediately disconnect the voice bot when he hears that a voice bot is calling him for collections. So voice bot and chatbot wouldn't work very efficiently. They look good and you feel that this will bring in efficiency, but ultimately what brings in efficiency is the right time, knowing when to connect the customer and what channel fits him better. So right now what we do is we use a lot of data to understand what, for example, if I have been following up with a customer for the last 10 days, I have enough data to understand what is the right time that the customer is approachable. Is it afternoon, morning, evening, or what time of the day? Most of the times he picks up the call, or most of the times he clicks on the messages, and which channels he prefers to open the messages. Is it the email that he is preferring to respond to? And is it WhatsApp messages that are getting opened, or is it the SMSs that are getting clicked, or the IVR calls that he is listening to? And based on that, I will drill down on that particular channel rather than using all the channels at once on him and making him feel more irritated about it. So that's one thing. Choose of channels. It will help in bringing down the cost, as well as it will create better experience for the customer. So it feels very frustrating when you get 10 messages on SMS, WhatsApp, call, everything. So this is one part. Second, I would say is one thing that has helped. There are two areas where AI has helped tremendously. One is quality, and second is knowledge management on field. Because like in our case, we have 7,000 agents on field pan India, and ensuring that every agent knows about every process or product change or regulatory change is very difficult, because there is also attrition on field. So having an AI-powered chatbot which educates, which helps them understand any, clarify any doubts about a product or a process or a regulatory change, or even about the code of conduct, that the internal code of conduct that the company has, is very helpful for them. They don't have to depend on the managers or a trainer or the central team in office to get these doubts cleared, and it's available 24/7. So we are developing an AI powered chatbot for the field team, which will help them raise queries, their own queries. It can be with respect to their own job, it can be with respect to the product, process, or regulations, and also they can raise a request, grievance, or query on behalf of the customer. So this helps the customer to interact with the executive better, rather than, for example, if the customer says that I will pay only when you give me a statement of account. I need a statement of account first. I want to see what has been the history, how many charges were levied, and then I will pay it. Now for this, if he says that call customer service से बात कर लो, वहां से ले लो, मैं तो ये जानता हूँ कि आपका total due 10,000 है, आपको इतना pay करना है. Now this is not a good experience. So he can immediately go to the chatbot. He can trigger a statement to the customer, and the query can be resolved on the spot, rather than creating a complaint and turning it into a grievance later on. Second, I would say is when it comes to quality, we are using at least two tools that we are using. Which this is on the call part, which helps in quality management for the call interactions that happen. So 100% of the call interactions we are able to audit, and we are able to understand where agents are going wrong. First of all, after the recent regulations, since COVID, I would say a lot of emphasis is being placed on behavior of collection agents, be it on call and field, which is very good. And I would say collection, the kind of culture that collections has improved from in the last 2 to 3 years, because of the regulations that have come in, and agents have become more serious about. They understand, okay, I need to be polite with the customer. They know about that, because they can impact their own job as well tomorrow if any escalation comes. So what we do is we use a AI based platform which helps us understand what happened on the call, what went wrong, which part of the call the customer refused to pay. Previously he was positive and then he turned negative. And also it helps us understand if there was a wrong information given by the customer or by the agent, or if the customer is feeling irritated. And also now at the end of the day, it helps us train the executives better, because we know what things are going wrong on a call. And if there is a raise of voice by the customer or by the agent, or if there are any particular keywords used like RBI, police, cyber, etc., we can immediately track that, and we can have a mechanism to stop that immediately, rather than waiting till it becomes an escalation. I think so.
I agree. I mean,
Vishal, I just wanted to add one more point to that. Suraj mentioned that there is a lot of messages and nudges that are sort of happening. And just to give you context of what we do, is about a billion text messages are sent in the country on everyday basis. These are commercial text messages that are sent put together marketing and all of the messages, right? 1 billion messages sent with a mobile penetration of about 1.12 billion, which means every Indian practically ends up getting one message every day. Well, the numbers could be different for people who are engaging with multiple banks and have got the numbers with all the telemarketers, and they're not at the DNC, so they might just be getting more messages. But having said that, he brought in an important point is to figure out that what channel is most optimum when it comes to selection of a case, that this customer is more likely to pay to me an IVEP, more likely to pay to me a bot, or maybe would require another lever, which is like from a digital lever, it has to go to a telecalling lever. From telecalling, it has to go to a field lever. From field lever, it has to go to a legal lever. Now, this selection is basically a natural phenomena if somebody has dropped down a particular funnel. Like you start somebody with the lowest cost of the funnel, which is IVR. Somebody drops off at an IVR funnel, then it moves to a bot funnel. Bot, you got a certain dispositions. You review the dispositions if it makes sense for you to hold it under the bot journey, because the customer is responding to the bot positively, saying that, okay, I will pay, but I need some time. Don't call me till about 15th. So whether you want to make a telecalling effort and get a repetitive statement on that, and you have a behavior attached with that customer that pays every time by 15th or on 15th, I don't think so. So what we'll have to understand is that where do we draw the line of over indulging with the customer? As much as I seen from my experience on collections and how this entire scheme works is that over indulging in a technology like a telecalling, or over indulging in terms of spamming too many messages, ends up losing the interest of the customer to pay you on the time, right? So we'll have to use all of these technologies available in a more hybrid manner. And what we need is a sort of a God particle that reads through all the disposition emanating from all these channels and try to create a persona of all these channels, which is sort of talking about that what really is the customer's intent. Is it an intent? I'll just give you a very another analogy to add to this. We use account aggregators for onboarding the customer. A customer who comes back and asks a settlement from me, I don't go back on account aggregator and check whether his accounts have sufficient balance while he's asking for a settlement. Is there a possibility? Can we go back to account aggregators and check that what he's really making is a fact or a void again? Is something that we can perhaps do, or maybe from a cost perspective we don't do. But there are options and there are positions that we can take in a way that we currently utilize the technologies. Of course, there is a lot that the digital has already opened in terms of what we can imagine. So time to sort of unfold these in times, and we'll see how it works.
A quick point. Okay. See, what happens is we are possibly, as collections guys, we are possibly servicing that 5% of the customers. See, it goes back that not all customers are intentional, right? We may be having customers who are genuinely financially crippled. So just to take a leaf back, I think while we are onboarding a customer, we usually take the minimum data that is required. Obviously, other than the customer will go to the other person or other organization. After the onboarding, we completely forget to connect with the customer. I think there what we need to step in, and possibly that's a point that we have been doing somewhat in our organization also, is to connect with the customer and ensure data enrichment on regular periodical basis. That is something that possibly help us to somewhat eradicate of a percentage where suddenly a customer switches off his phone. A customer will only give you another number when the customer is regular, when he is not financially crippled. So the current condition of the customer actually pushes him back to do these kind of activities of switching off phone or possibly moving out from the current residences. So these data enriching from the day and not waiting for the first bounce to happen. I think this is quite an important aspect that we can possibly look at.
Actually, I also had a similar kind of a point that you were trying to make. So what happens nowadays in the journeys is that, so from the fraud risk management side, right? A number can be swapped by someone to apply for a loan. Nowadays, it's mandatory to check your Aadhaar PAN seeding. Like it's an RBI circular that you have to see the Aadhaar PAN seeding. If your number is linked to Aadhaar, then this number is what is you're using, and this is the financial statement used for us also, right? If you see that the number is not in use for the last 6 months, or it's a very new number that has come up, these are triggers not to do the loan. If this happens, for the guy to switch off the phone is also very difficult. No? He'll not get his banking SMSs, he'll not be able to transact, nothing he'll be able to do. So these kind of checks are there in the market nowadays.
Just want to add on to what Suraj said. I'm sorry for taking too much of the time here, but what happens is that we, as he rightly mentioned, that at the time of onboarding, after the customer is onboarded, we sort of forget to service how we need to look at the customer. Okay, here is a view. If there are 5 or 10 repeat months, 5 repeat months of a message getting non-delivered to a customer while he is delinquent but his EMI is getting deducted, we will sleep over this data. Most of us will, right? We see that the messages are going maybe to a raw apparel, like 15 messages are sent, all of the messages are undelivered. Very likely, while the payment is already there, very likely that a customer might have switched over a mobile number. What are the means and ways that we do an internal re-KYC to really figure out does this particular mobile number requires a separate way of really going out and reaching out to the customer and change and modify that number? So there is a lot of these data insights, like what he said, that there is a problem. There are genuine use cases and there are genuine problem solutions to this also. And it has far-reaching impact.
In fact, a lot of questions to ask, but I think we have a paucity of time. But yeah, we could actually cover a lot of interlinked questions, in the first couple of questions itself, pertaining to the technology part and all. So I was just, before I actually end, we spoke about those bot callings and all. And I really appreciate the people from the technical side. I have been, I'm a theatre artist also, so there were times, many of the times I was asked by a few of the techno experts to review the bot calling, the way you respond, the way you said. So I'm amazed the kind of AI which has been developed. So we were taught on a particular expression that if you are in fear or if you're excited or if you are depressed, show me those expressions. So we were taught, let's say, 5-6 expressions in our theatre school. I could see they have 25 different expressions. And the way they use and the way it is being utilized, it's just amazing. I have been. So I think that's really one wonderful thing which has happened and which is really helping us.
You're not far from a time where the bots are able to listen to your whole day conversations, look at your logs of calls, how many times your wife called to check whether you had a meal, is adding to your happiness index, right?
Absolutely.
So this is the near future. So we'll have to all deal with it. As I said,
accordingly, the pitch also, of the automated caller also changes.
Absolutely. If the call on the...
That's really good. Playing with emotions and playing direct to direct, human interaction is the most difficult and the most important code which we try to decode, into the collection. So, before I end, just that I was just explaining this to somebody in the Eastern UP, that this is what is happening. I was called by, the economic offenses of different, police academies, that you please teach us what's happening, AI, these and this thing, cloud calling, bot calling, what all, all this, because they are really scared. We said that you can send an SMS or whatever. People are scared because RBI, all the people are sending SMS on a daily basis. Don't click on a link which you don't know or which you're not aware of. So 50% of the time, our efforts also go in vain. And everybody is getting bombarded with how many SMS and WhatsApp, which I was just, mentioning. So I was telling him about this collection strategy. I was telling him about the technical part of it. जैसे सर हिंदी में बताइए, तो उसको हिंदी में हमको ऐसे बताना पड़ा कि ये तंत्र मंत्र और षड्यंत्र तीनों का कॉम्बिनेशन है, which we particularly do. So tantra is your formula. The technology what you use, mantra is the formula, and I don't want to use the word षड्यंत्र, but that's what we call collection strategy, right?
Thank you.
With that, I would like to thank all my colleagues and all my friends here for such a wonderful and participative discussion what we had, and I really learned a lot. And I'm sure the output and the outcome of our discussion would benefit a lot of us here.
Thank you, Vishalji, for summing up the panel, and big round of applause, ladies and gentlemen, for this wonderful panel here, to all the experts who sat in the panel, and to our honorable moderator as well. I would now like to call on stage Ms. Khushbu Batra from Credgenics. Khushbu, if you could kindly come on stage and do the honors of felicitating our wonderful panel of experts here. We'll start first with Mr. Suraj Shetty from Ring. A big round of applause, ladies and gentlemen, to Mr. Suraj Shetty from Ring for his valuable contribution in the panel session. Moving next to Mr. Piyush R. Mistry who is from 𝐾𝐚𝐥 India. A big round of applause to Piyush for his wonderful contribution in the panel. Moving next to Mr. Himanshu Bhattacharjee from Geo Financial Services. A big round of applause to Himanshu ji for his wonderful contribution in the panel session. Moving next to Mr. Maninder Singh Uppal from Axio. A big round of applause to Maninder ji for his wonderful contribution in the panel session. Moving next to Mr. Suraj Datta from Shriram Finance. A big round of applause to Mr. Datta for his wonderful contribution in the panel session. Moving next to Mr. Sadaf Sayeed from Muthoot Microfinance. A big round of applause, ladies and gentlemen, to Mr. Sayeed for his wonderful contribution in the panel session. And now, our honorable moderator, Mr. Vishal Chugh from Tata Capital. A big round of applause to Vishalji for his wonderful contribution in the panel, not just as a moderator, but also as a valuable panel member. Honorable panel members, I would request you to kindly step forward for a group photograph, and Khushbu, if you could also join them. So, ladies and gentlemen, that was our digital loan collection panel. We had a very solid discussion going in and great insight shared by the panel member. Thank you to all the panel members. Thank you to Vishalji for his wonderful contribution as a panel moderator.